So on Pac-Man Fever, the first thing you hear, of course, is the Pac-Man sound effects. And we had to get those directly from the machine. We had to actually find the games for each of the machines and record them with an open mic. There was a deli near the studio that had a Pac-Man machine, which we used to record the sound effects off of. Now, there's been a rumor for years that you can faintly hear someone in the background ordering a sandwich, and I think it was true at the time. I remember hearing it on the original sound effects recording, but I think it was probably cut out in the mix, so I don't know. That one's kind of up in the air. If you hear it on there, then you have better ears than I. The musicians on Pac-Man Fever consisted of Jenny Whitaker on drums. Jenny was just an outstanding drummer, just terrific. She worked with Country Joe and the Fish and a lot of big groups. Larry McDonald, a great bass player here in Atlanta, played bass. Chris Bowman, just one of the top guitar players in town. I played piano and some string lines on a Korg string ensemble. That was a piece of equipment that was state-of-the-art in those days. There was a couple of people in our management team who was not wild about the string lines I played on the Korg on Pac-Man Fever and suggested that we might consider leaving them out, but we really liked them, and I can't imagine the song, without them. David Cole was a great drummer here in town. He had syndromes, and we just thought the snare in Pac-Man, we thought, it's not quite big enough. So we had David come in with a syndrome, and he played over the snare drum on our track and really beefed up the sound. I think it sounds a lot better. Rick Hinkle, another just top musician here in town, we brought him in to play lead guitar on Pac-Man Fever. Pac-Man Fever was cut several months prior to the album, and Rick played on a couple more cuts, but Chris Bowman would mostly end up playing lead and rhythm guitar on the rest of the album. Sharon Scott and Steve Carlisle sang the back vocals. They sang multiple parts, and we stacked them several times to give it a kind of a big, bigger sound. Steve sang the original theme for the TV show WKRP in Cincinnati. That show was created by Hugh Wilson, who had been in advertising here in Atlanta and had worked with Steve before, and brought him in to sing the theme for the TV show when it went on the air. We then produced an extended version of the theme with Steve, and it was released on MCA Records around the same time as Pac-Man Fever. In fact, at one point, they were actually side by side on the Billboard Hot 100 chart. Pac-Man Fever was a 24-track cut. We recorded it at Studio One in Doraville, Georgia. It was engineered by Craig Quisnell and mastered by Bob Ludwig in New York.